Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. Please follow us on this Facebook page or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic ROAR. And if you'd like to take part in the narrative, please simply post your comments and we'll be happy to address those as they are relevant to our discussion. You can help us here locally by liking and sharing this program. And please note that we will be expanding our live stream to other venues soon. So, if you are unwilling to govern yourselves, you will be governed by tyrants. Now, can I say that again? Well, I will anyway. If you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. And now this is a dual reality. It's both biblically true and naturally true. When the people of Israel failed to be spiritually disciplined, the God of the Bible brought them into bondage. And when we, in any phase of history, succumb to moral or societal depravity, we find ourselves also caught in a trap we can't seem to get out of, whether it be alcohol, drugs, pornography, or anything else. You may possibly have seen some of these tweets of very young and apparently very healthy people crying about having to go back to work or they're going to lose their Medicaid. They are trapped. But this is only one side of the truth. And if we're unwilling to govern ourselves, we will be governed by tyrants. See, as Republicans, and especially as Florida Republicans, we've left our governance in the hands of people we have genuinely wanted to trust for far too long. We are finding ourselves caught in a very precarious place where we can't trust what comes to our mailboxes or what is being said about any particular candidate in a primary election. And quite frankly, we seem to be unwilling to even vote in a primary. Our Republican majority has passed several bills taking away the authority of city and county government bodies. That is the antithesis of republicanism. It has become a far more autocratic form of government where the leadership wants to tell us how they intend to govern rather than allowing our cities and counties to govern themselves. It's time for the electorate in the great state of Florida to wake up from their slumber and realize we must govern ourselves or to continue to be governed by tyrants. Alan Ross, welcome back.
Thanks, Chuck. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Hope I didn't scare anybody with my opening salvo.
I thought it was right on, by the way.
Well, good, thank you very much. Where am I? Oh, after our live stream, we got a question from one of the viewers asking, well, how do we get this kind of information out to other like-minded conservatives? And of course, your website is also a great start. So why don't you give us your website again? I think we got it scrolling on the bottom there at some point, or maybe not. I can get it up there in a few minutes. Your website is
MAGApatriots.com.
Super, super. Well, look, before we get too far into this, let's welcome Mike Levine into the program. Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. Thanks.
Super, super. Well, we had, I think, quite a response to Tuesday's live stream. It's probably one of the more liked and shared podcasts that we've had so far. And, we really, I think, did a very good job of discussing several of the problems. But at this point, where do we go for some solutions? I think what I tried to suggest in my opening monologue is that we need the Republican electorate to wake up to the fact that something is rotten in Denmark.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. That's true, Chuck. Mm-hmm.
So I know you're Alan seemed to be a bit ahead of us here. We felt like we were right on top of things. I think doing a lot of what you were doing, what you are doing, before we had some major changes in our leadership in this county, and now we're kind of back to square one.
So let me speak to that a little bit. I agree 100% with what you said. I think our biggest challenge in terms of awakening the public to the problems with our current campaign finance laws is to get the message to the people. Now, I think in Brevard County, we've been working on this for quite a while. We've actually been working on it since September. So my vision of this and the people who work with me in Brevard was we wanted to kind of light up Brevard County and educate them the best that we can. And we've worked hard at building blocks to do that. And the first thing that we did was, as we talked about at the last meeting, we evaluated um, what I would call uh, misleading, perhaps fraudulent mailers that went out to high propensity Republican voters before the August 2024 primary. And that investigation uh, led us to seeing some very horrible things. So what we did was we tried to look at root cause, and root cause was basically our campaign finance laws in Florida. And we researched it and we came up with a plan. And our plan was, I think, pretty simple. The first thing we did was we determined what had to be done. And what we believed that had to be done was we had to go back, hopefully through the legislature, and have them restore what's called the PAC cap. In 2013, um, they basically eliminated the cap, the amount of money that anyone could give to a political committee. And by doing that, it became unlimited. It became unlimited. So all sorts of special interest money just like started flowing into these political committees. So if we were able to go back and change that to where we were, the people would have a chance. We have a fighting chance because we are outgunned money wise, probably 98 to 99% to like 1 or 2%. So we have to do that. The other thing that we discovered was
Can I
that
just ask a question on that real quick before we go too much farther? They eliminated the cap on PACs, but they didn't change the personal donation. In other words, I as an individual can't give any more.
in a campaign, yes.
Yeah.
So now political committees, you can do pretty much, they can any amount of money. I mean, it just is crazy. And in our report, which is on the website, if you go in and look at the work that we did, we really illustrate pretty constructively what's going on. So if you read the report and you take the time to read the report, you'll see the horror show yourself. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple to see. So if we can restore the PAC cap, that's the most important one. But the other thing we found was um, the political committees in Florida, and this is my opinion, they are being orchestrated to create dark money. So what we found was that PACs transfer money to PACs and then transfer money to other PACs. And what that means to the voter in Florida is you cannot see where the money is coming from that support political candidates. And like in the example of the mailers, literally all of it did not come from Brevard County. So someone outside of Brevard County was trying to influence our elections. So if we can do those two things, if we can change those two things, I think we have a fighting chance. So what we did in Brevard was our first thought was all the people who were initially involved with this were members of the Brevard Republican Executive Committee, which is the Republican Party of Brevard. We're all elected officials. So what we decided we would do is we would try to pass a resolution, propose a resolution and get it passed by the board, and then have the full body of the Republican Executive Committee vote on that. And it was not an easy process. We got kind of sideswiped by a hurricane where we didn't have a quorum, we couldn't vote on it. And then we had elections in December. And then what happened was we had a new board. And the new board has members who benefited from the mailers. So they had trouble passing the resolution at the board level. So we went back, I personally went back to the board twice, and it was split 3-3 whether it should be brought to the floor. And I give credit to our chair. He had the courage to do what a chairman can do, and he brought it to the floor. And what did you find out? And this is the tell. This is what you have to think about. Please hear me what I'm telling you. People tried to stop it, but when the resolution got to the floor, it was overwhelmingly passed 95-16, which means the people in Brevard County, the people Republican Party in Brevard County wanted these kinds of changes. So that's the good. That was good news. And then what we also did, why we got up to that point, was we went around and we got lots of conservative groups to also pass the resolutions. So we still were faced with how do we educate the populace in our county. So what we do is in Brevard County, we have two media assets. One's called Brevard News, which does a great job. It's been doing good work for about a year now. And we have our website, which is ultramagapatriots.com. Those are our two mouthpieces. So we started to go to work on that, and we've been getting a lot of traction. But we also determined that we have to get out and talk about this issue face to face with people who have our same point of view, and people perhaps even on the other side of the aisle who have the same problem in their side of the aisle. So I think we've been pretty successful with that. So I would say we're the furthest along of any county. And, the good news is we tried to take this statewide. So we have statewide Zoom calls, and we have a couple of counties that are kind of getting energized behind this. And I think if Brevard is the first brick, the second county that seems to be going in a good direction is Lake County. So it would be great if Lake County could get their REC to pass it. It would be great if you guys could continue to report on this. It would be great if you could train people to speak about this, and I'd be willing to help. And if we can keep laying bricks county by county, I think we can get the message out. And the good news is now we have five representatives in Tallahassee and one senator. So now just think about what I'm saying. We have the grassroots Republican Party saying we want campaign finance reform. We have conservative groups throughout the county saying we want campaign finance reform. We're waking the people, more and more people every day. So it's going to be harder for our representatives to just kind of hide from this issue. So,
Mike, you had something to say?
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Everything that Alan is saying is really important. So there's no sense just let him. That's what we're here for. Is to spread the message. But it's amazing when you get into this, right? That I think most civic organizations or grassroots initiatives, don't really know how to actually get things done. So point number one, I'd like to say, there's a couple of things, but number one, we do understand, and I think believe me, it's common knowledge around the state of Florida, that there's really only three people who decide what happens in Florida and what doesn't. That would be the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate. If those three people don't want it, it's not going to happen. And then all of our state representatives and senators are what is the word I'm looking for? Are
captured?
No, captured. Yeah, great. They're captured. They're subordinate, 100% subordinate. They do exactly what they're told for fear of retaliation from leadership. So that's where you're at. And then because they know that and they front of mind know that, and you can talk to the most cooperative legislators in the state of Florida, and even they are captured and subordinated. to leadership. So I personally believe that talking to state legislators as grassroots citizens is a colossal waste of time. And not only that, but it gives the legislature the opportunity to stack up against us because they know what we're concerned about. And of course, they have to know because it has to be done. So my point to you would be this. Two things. Number one, legislators aren't going to listen to whiny grassroots individuals and then take the initiative to filter through all of our concerns and then draft legislation on their own. We have to drop the legislation that we want passed on their desk. This is the bill we want you to file, okay? Because that's done for them. It's a no-brainer if you can even get them to do that based on what I said before. So there's two kinds of power in the world: personal power and position power. Grassroots people, we leverage personal power. We're saying we ask you to do this on our behalf because that's what you got elected for. But position power is different. So if we can get boards of county commissioners, constitutional officers, city council members to massively come out and say, you know what, this campaign finance situation is hurting us, and we're elected representatives in government right now. And because keep in mind, elected officials influence votes. So that is a lot of leverage against these legislative delegations. So let me just add one more little component. Again, I guess most people know that I served on the Republican Party of Florida for a few years, and I was buddies with. Not I say buddies. I talked to Senator Joe Gruters a lot. Joe Gruters was very active in the party when I was there. Eventually, he became the chairman of the party. Then he got elected to the Florida House and eventually the Florida Senate. And Joe Gruters told me one thing that is, and he's an amazingly polished politician, right? He's sitting at the doorstep of Donald Trump. So Joe Gruters told us all one thing. He said, if you got to bring something to the game. If you bring nothing to the game, you'll get nothing done. And the two things that people can bring to the game is money and votes. So that supports my concept that while, yes, it's important to educate the grassroots voter because we want them to know what's going on, but we really don't expect them to get the job done. It's going to come from city councils, but most importantly, county commissioners who are damaged by the tyrannical leadership out of Tallahassee. By the way, I watched a little video this morning where Casey DeSantis is out, kind of addressing local rule. And it'll be really interesting. I didn't have enough time to really figure out exactly where she is on it. But my instinct is that she's trying to make sense of top-down government from Tallahassee, Tallahassee needs to be involved in it because they need to coordinate all the efforts between local government, the NGOs, that kind of thing, right? Because obviously Ron DeSantis is a heavy-handed governor. So now his wife is considering running for governor, which I personally believe she will run, because they want to carry on the same methodology that's in place now, which is a autocratic style of government. And we can get into that conversation. So basically, I'd like to just pass it back over to you guys. I think I've made my point that two kinds of power: personal power, position power. So we need people with position power to pick up the mantle and carry this forward. Chuck?
Yeah, so obviously, I think we're all capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. And I think, Mike, you outlined a strategy, and Alan, of course, you did as well. The idea of presenting or bringing into the narrative the county commissioners, because they're the ones whose authority are really being hit pretty hard, as well as obviously city council men and women as well. These people are, I think, very important, and if they're really good with the idea that the state should be doing their job, maybe they're not the right city councilman or county commissioner that we really
Totally
need.
agree.
Yeah. So as we look forward, how do we move these people in? We've got an invite out to one of our county commissioners. We're hoping he will give us a call back and get on our show. We've already worked with one of the city councilmen. His name is escaping me. Help me out there, City Councilman
Todd
Howard.
Howard. Also, don't forget Bob Grenier from Tavares. You know, Bob's been on, and he's a great guy too.
That's right.
And we're very fortunate, you know, because we do have a lot of really good people here in Lake County, but it's just really a matter of embracing the responsibility. Because keep in mind that Tallahassee sends a lot of money to these counties. So when these commissioners step up and start challenging Tallahassee, you know, they're going to there will be retaliation for that. So that's why we need to make a lot of noise, and that's why the county commissioners and city councils need to be involved, because the media needs to get involved. So it's good. It's a bit of a war, Alan.
I like your idea, but make no mistake about it. Lots of the county commissioners are also getting money from the political committees and support from Tallahassee. So
Understood.
If you look at the guides, the fraudulent voter guides, they went everywhere from governor all the way down to state committeemen and women from the county. So
sure, why not? If you can get it on a postcard, right?
It went up and down. So, but what I like about the idea is that it's another forum to get in front of the people. It's another forum to, put them on notice that you're watching. And if you're lucky and maybe you've got one or two that, believe in serving the people, maybe you got a shot to move the needle. And I think it's a great idea, and we should spend some time talking about how we go about and do that.
And it's a very simple answer, but so long story short, you put together a presentation and you train a bunch of people on how to deliver the presentation, and you start speaking at county commission meetings. That's how you do it.
Yeah, usually they give you 2 or 3 minutes at a county commission.
Yeah. If you look, but you can apply to be on the agenda. It depends. Some people will give you some space and some people won't. But I mean, why don't you just make an appointment to be on the agenda, request to be on the agenda, and tell them you need 10 minutes?
Right. And you can, and what we've done in our county on other issues is we'll line up 3 or 4 people who I mean, you can just read it, right? I mean, so you're cut off, the next person steps up and they continue.
Sure. Sure. But this is a huge issue, Chuck. I mean, Alan, we're so blessed to have Alan and his team in Brevard, which is a great team, to have really, because, we talk about election integrity, which is a problem, by the way. The system of voting is a problem. And it's exacerbated by what Alan, yesterday, I spent pretty much all day going through Florida Statute 106, which covers campaign finance. And as it relates to the PACs, it's just the Wild West, right? There's nothing in there restricting PACs, nothing.
You can do anything. And that's why I would encourage people to go read the report, because when you actually see what's going on there, I mean, you can talk about it till the cows come home. But go in and take a look at what's actually going on. It'll make you sick.
Yeah. But the point is, the strategy is to go through 106 and draft the changes to the legislation that need to be made. And that becomes your legislative priority that you ask your legislators to file. And of course, then let the Speaker and the President of the Senate refuse to bring that to the floor, refuse to give it committee assignments and all that kind of stuff. And then you just know, right? And then, but at the end of the day, as I've said for many, many years, and of course, the stakeholders here in Lake County have admonished me many, many times, because I say, if you guys aren't going to do what we want you to do, we're going to have to go to the media. We're going to have to make a big deal about it, right? Because that's the only tool we have. Alan,
you're right. But we do have some good news. I mean, on some of the things that we want, the Republican Liberty Caucus has drafted legislation, and they're supporting. One piece would be to eliminate the transfers between political committees. that would be big. I don't think it's the whole.
Huge.
It would be, but it's a great first step. The second thing that they've done um, is they've drafted legislation to basically kind of clean up the political advertisement space. So you won't have people like would put Donald Trump's picture on your flyer and Ron DeSantis and they're sending them to your door, thinking that they're supporting, the candidacy of whoever did the mailer. So they have some good proposed legislation on that, and then another one, which is another issue near and dear to my heart, is they're going after political contributions from regulated monopoly utilities. So if you do a study of what's been going on with Florida rates, um, we're like the greatest solar producer now on the planet. We did more solar last year than California. And I think people are waking up because we're seeing all these crazy rate increases. And hats off to the Republican Liberty Caucus. They've drafted legislation. Because think about it. If you're a regulated monopoly in Florida, you already have the business, right? You own the business. So what are they giving money to our politicians for? Well, if the answer is very simple, it's because they're proposing and pushing the highest cost projects on the people of Florida, which they make the most money on. And there's a great guy who's on the War Room with Steve Bannon. We're lucky in Florida. He lives here. His name is Dave Walsh. I would encourage your listeners to go out and look at some of his stuff. But RLC's gotten in the fight on that. So the one piece that we still need to draft the legislation on, I think it's pretty simple, would be on to restore the PAC cap.
So let me ask you a question. Have you seen the legislation that the RLC has proposed?
Yes, it's actually on my website, Mike. So if you go to the ultramagapatriots.com website and click on the political committee blog, there's 3 posts, one on each of the showing the legislation of each one of them, and so you can just download.
Okay, well, there you go. So there's your county commission presentation right there.
Right.
You go into the county commission meeting, you bring in the legislation, and you say, we just want you to pass a proclamation that you're in support of this.
Right.
Right.
And
then have a vote, right, and see who is and who isn't.
Yeah. Well,
that's very powerful right there.
Right. And the nice thing, like in Brevard County, it's our county commission meetings are all done live stream, and you can go back and look at them. So it's good television. It's good television to put them on the spot.
I couldn't agree more. So there you go. I think we have I'll tell you something I think that what we just laid out is the most effective plan that you can have. And if that doesn't work, you better get out your muskets.
Yeah, but you still, Mike, I still think you have to get out and get in front. You have to get in front of the people. And,
no, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I mean, there's
because you need a groundswell of support, pressure.
We need.
You're right.
Lots of movement.
But we need.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Another thing, Chuck, we could do is we could invite the constitutional officers to come on to the live stream.
Sure.
And talk about this and see where they're at, each one.
There you go.
And then you find out, right? Because I got news for you. Yeah.
I don't really. Again, we regularly talk to ourselves, and the key is to find a way to the electorate, and of course that means money. So somewhere along the line we need to be able to generate a little bit of cash to go out and either take advertisement out of the local newspapers or somehow get on any of the, I don't know who listens to radio anymore. I know I don't, but there's still radio stations out there, so someone must be listening.
But I think you're right on, Chuck. What we found in Brevard, when we set up Brevard News, which is kind of like what you're doing here, it came out of the box a little slow, and then we started to get more and more traction. So we're getting 1,000 hits on the stuff we do. And then we have other influencers who take that information and do posts on it. So I don't think we should get discouraged. I think we just have to, one foot, one day at a time, and you know, develop
And then,
our
of
own.
course,
Yeah.
Chuck, we have to build into our format to ask our viewers to like and subscribe
Yeah, well, I think
because
I
that's a
do
big
that
deal.
early
Do you?
on. Maybe I
Okay.
don't have those exact
Okay.
words, but
But they have, I mean, that's the deal. You got to build momentum for these platforms.
yeah, yeah.
And, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the influencers out there are pretty self serving, it's all about them. But that's not what this is about. Nobody on this live stream today is serving their own self interest. We're here trying to
Restore our American
reform.
Republic.
Yeah, to restore our American Republic. Exactly. That's what we're doing.
No one on
And
this,
that's what it's about.
yeah, none of
So,
us are Catholic.
hey,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, viewers, help us out, help us out. Share this with your friends. Talk about it. Get this going because we have to do this. This is an existential threat to our lifestyle, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. When you have, when you have over 1 million acres set up for solar panels, the solar farms, just shooting our electricity bill through the roof. It's just not, this is not what we're asking for. And, believe it or not, our 30 minutes is up. Not that we have to shut everything right down, but I really think, after the broadcast, maybe Alan and us can chat about a few other things. The goal is to move the needle, not to simply talk to each other. So unless anyone has any final remarks, our time is up. Mike?
Over and out, Chuck.
We're good. Alan, any final comment right now?
Yeah, one final comment. Maybe a good segment would be to update and educate the people on what's going on with the utilities. I mean,
Smart. Very smart.
there's a lot of counties that are coming up. There's a big rate request that Florida Power and Light has coming up, and people have to understand what's going on in Florida, because if you don't and you just fall asleep, you're going to be looking at 40% rate increases over the next 4 years. So
Let me say one thing about that before you go.
Go ahead, Mike.
There's a lot of ways to hurt people. And public policy that raises the cost of housing, public policy that raises the cost of utilities, you are physically harming people. That has to be understood. And the legislators know the impact of what they're doing. So this is a moral failure of our society when we support legislation that exacerbates over necessities that people must have to live, and we price them out of those necessities. We are physically damaging these people. Homelessness, bankruptcies, foreclosures, malnutrition, medical problems. And sadly, it appears to me that our leadership delegation in Tallahassee doesn't care about it. And I'll be honest with you, I've had people tell me to my face that they don't care about it. And that's a problem. We cannot allow that to exist in our society, Chuck.
Well, I thank both you, Mike, and you, Alan. I trust we're going to be seeing more of you, Alan, in the future. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for listening in. Please like, please share, please subscribe, all the things that Mike asked us to do. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in on our twice weekly live stream. See you next time. And meanwhile, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.